Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me for this webinar. My name is Genady, and I'm leading FinTech and RegTech activities of Hitachi Vantara in Asia Pacific. Today I would like to talk with you about a pragmatic approach in implementing artificial intelligence and machine learning solutions in financial service industry. Hitachi is one of the largest technology company in the world, and financial services is quite important business for us. So we invest a lot of research and R&D time in developing and exploring technologies that we believe may change financial sector in the future, such as artificial intelligence, biometric, robotics, Internet of Things, and blockchain. And today I would like to share some of our experience and learnings from internal and external products related to AI in financial services. We will have only half an hour of me talking. That's why I will try to keep things brief. If you have any questions, please feel free to type them in the question box at any time, and I would address them at the end of the presentation. So let's start. So when we're talking about pragmatic approach into artificial intelligence, it's to me it's all about understanding the process, and there is 7 important steps that I believe need to be followed in order to make the project successful. So one of the main reasons of failing project, it's lack of support from senior management or unrealistic expectations. And all those things could be solved by educating all the relevant stakeholders on what AI can do, and most importantly, what it can't do as well. Once we are talking about pragmatic approach to business, we need to start with a business case. We need to follow the money. The better business case is defined, the higher chance of success we're gonna have in this particular project. And by defining a business case, I mean we need to be very clear what kind of problem are we solving, and how do we know that this problem is solved? What are our KPIs? What are the potential coverage, and how fast we need to solve this problem? So time, it's also important, and it's part of the analyzing business case. Once we come up with a business case, we need to evaluate it. We need to understand the limitation of technology, the capabilities of our organization, and the potential risk this technology has, and in impact of this risk on business of this particular organization. Those elements need to be incorporated in overall risk management framework. Then we can move to the 4th stage, identifying data that we need. And data is really crucial element in implementing machine learning and artificial intelligence, because, well, the models that you develop, they as good as the data that you have. We need to think about resources that we will use in the project, and by resources I mean people who are gonna work on the project, and technology and tools that gonna be used. And we need to focus on utilizing them in the most efficient way. And then obviously we move into the developing the project itself, building the model, testing the model, and developing. And once it's done, we need to think about how this project will be scaled, how we will operationalize it, and how potentially we can scale it across the organization. So just to summarize, In my opinion, the pragmatic approach to implementation of AI projects lays in three important points. Point number one, be very clear on the problem that you are solving and the timelines that you have of this problem. Then point number two is be aware of resources that you need to solve this problem, including data that you need, people, technology, and so on. And point number three, it's very important to keep a big pictures in your mind, how this solution will fit in the organization. How would you scale? How would you work on expanding this technology across? Now, I would like to give few points about each of the steps in the process. So let's talk about understanding AI. I would mention 6 different capabilities that artificial intelligence, that AI, machine learning can solve for us. So first of all, probably one of the most commonly used is predicting and forecasting future based on historical data. It could relate in financial services to forecasting performance of certain financial asset or portfolio, predicting likelihood of someone to default on their loan, understanding what would be next customer purchase, and so on. The next is segmentation. Segmentation is something that often called classification or cohort analysis. Is when we tried to divide our data to multiple groups and understand how those groups interact with each other or relate to a problem we're trying to solve. One of the projects that we did in Japan, we helped bank to group their customers according to marketing channels that they would be more likely to respond. And what does it allow? The bank have a proper segmentation of which customer to which marketing channel to use, which in turn increase efficiency of this marketing. The third functionality is anomaly detections. Once we have data, we have patterns in data, and AI can help us to identify some abnormal activity that happens in the data, some anomaly, something that is not usual. For example, fraud detection or particular risk. Fourth, we are talking about learning, machine learning. AI as a tool can understand the data and learn from the data and help us to make decisions or automate processes. For example, if you have some complex process where there's a multiple decision need to be made and humans need to decide which step to take based on data and their experience, we can use artificial intelligence and machine learning to learn this process and then let AI to do it and automate the process and save time. We're having something that we call reasoning. Reasoning is something that is considered when artificial intelligence learning about the world and using the data it gathered around the world to take particular decision. One of the example is a well-known IBM Watson use case. And we're talking about last component of natural language processing. It's ability of machine to understand human interaction. That machine will understand not only what people are talking about, but also context, emotions, and so on. And it's a great use in customer service and applications like chatbots or understanding documents processing. Once we are talking about understanding the business case as the next step, AI impacts multiple areas in a financial services vertical change. If we're talking about product and solutions, AI can help us to analyze multiple components that goes into product designs. For example, features of the product that we have, customer behavior, market needs, competitiveness, and can provide us with analysis and recommendation on how to best structure the product, how to best market it, and how to best price it. So we will can do it in optimal way. And these tasks normally would be challenging to do just by humans because, well, it will require processing very large amount of data and do a lot of modeling and prediction, and machines are pretty good at it. We are talking about marketing and sales, which is obviously comes with various cross sales and upsellings, churn predictions. If we talk about risk management, there's alternative credit scoring that can be done by machines, fraud detection, underwriting in insurance. When we're talking about customer services, there is natural language processing code. There's a lot of organizations have been implementing chatbots recently. Analysis of documents and making decisions based on these documents, automating processes. When we're talking about compliance, there is a lot of projects that organizations working around KYC and anti-money laundering activities detection, conduct risk analysis. When we're talking about IT, there is a project like data centers optimization, cybersecurity, using better way in order to identify, analyze, and prevent threats in cybersecurity. When we're talking about HR, AI can help in better hiring practice and better career development. And there's multiple ways how it can help in finance and legal. So it's all great. We understand the business case. We probably identify business case that is relevant for us. And now we need to evaluate the project and evaluate the risk that associated potential with this project. So there is a three main challenges that you would need to be aware while building AI solution or utilizing AI in order solving your problem. First is accuracy. So when you get when you ask AI to give you an answer, the answer won't be just A. It's normally gonna be A, B, C, and the probability of A happening, B happening, and C happening. So something that you need to be considered is being comfortable with the probability of the answer, with the accuracy of the answer that you will get. For example, if you're talking about loan underwriting, what would happen? Would you be comfortable with the 10% chance for person defaulting on a loan, or just 5% chance of person defaulting on a loan? Just for example, which accuracy is going to be acceptable for you? For some cases, you may not even get accuracy number that will be satisfactory. The great example of it, I'm sure some of you watched FIFA World Cup, and it's kind of a common game for banks who are large technological powerhouses as well, like JP Morgan, Citi, Morgan Stanley, Nomura, and so on. I use AI in order to predict the outcomes of this championship, and guess who's gonna be the FIFA World Cup champion this year. I'm not sure if you follow it, but most of them failed. And that shows that AI is not really almighty, so you need to be prepared that the accuracy may not be there. The second most important point, well, not most, one of the more important points is being aware of biases. Biases in data and biases in algorithms. We need to remember that humans are those who are collecting data and humans who are deciding which data points to use and which data points to omit. And it's very important. Take, for example, completely hypothetical situation. If someone tries to understand crime crime activities in this town and want to reduce crime rates. And they would like to use AI for it. They will gather data about crime, and let's say they would basically use data from a particular neighborhood. What can happen in this neighborhood? It could be dominant by a particular one ethnic group, and if doing my analysis I'm not incorporating the distribution between ethnic group, I could actually come up with an answer that one particular ethnic group, which is obviously dominant in this neighborhood, may actually be more likely committing crimes. And that could result in wrong actions from my side, and those actions may have consequences. So when you're working on AI, you just need to be aware and have a plan. How would you plan to address biases, and what is the contingency plan, and engage relevant compliance and perhaps legal counterparts when you thinking about this project, just to be prepared. And that brings us to the third important point to notice when you're dealing with AI is regulators. Financial services is heavily regulated industry, and companies that operates across various geos, they need to be compliant with the multiple regulations at the same time. And regulators are catching up with technology, and when you implementing an AI project, you as a company need to be prepared that you may need to answer to regulators on why your algorithm reached a particular decision, why it's denied loan for a particular client, or why it recommended a particular asset or particular portfolio for in your robo-advisory. So that's three important things that you need to be aware of doing project evaluation. Moving on, we talk about data. As I mentioned, data is one of the key components in implementing AI and implementing machine learning techniques. And you need to be aware about all variety of data that can help you in this particular problem. So, for example, if we are again talking about loan origination algorithm, if we want to use AI to automate loan underwriting, if I'm happy with the same result of loan underwriting that I have right now, with the same level of accuracy, I can probably use the same data as I have right now. But if I want to improve my accuracy, if I want machine to do a better job than human and faster, I need to think about alternative data sources that I can bring and then can complement my solution. And while I'm thinking about alternative data sources or data sources that I use, I need to be aware that first of all, the data need to be of good quality, and the data need to be labeled, or someone would need to do additional work of labeling this data in majority of cases. And the third point is once I identify the data, once I understand the data is of good variety and good quality, I have enough of it, I need to think how I move it around, how I bring it to my model, how I integrate it in the whole data pipeline automatically, so I will have the least manual job to do. Now, thinking about resources. In general, I would divide to four resources into four different areas. First of all, there is obviously internal resources. That if you're working for a big organization, or you're just lucky to have a large team of data scientists and data engineers, it's great to use them. obviously it's a faster availability, perhaps lower cost, and the solution may take slightly longer time to develop this model, but as an organization, you will have full control on it because it's developed in-house. The second option, if the first option is not available or maybe too expensive, it's often to collaborate with startups or fintechs, regtechs who work in the areas, insurtechs. And the benefit here is you have solutions that are already developed that often going to be quite innovative, and those companies are looking to get customers as their startups. So you can probably negotiate a good price for it. It comes with a certain risk related to dealing with startups, such as ability of the solution to scale to your needs, especially if you need to scale it across multiple regions globally. Support that you need, and obviously there is a issue that once you buy something off the shelf, you have less control on how product works. So you would need to be reliant on the solution provider in order to modify things or fix things when they're broken. The third option, it's for some reason often forgotten, is actually partnering with academia, with research institutes. Research institutes are most of the countries investing a lot of money in researching topic of AI and machine learning, and they would benefit with collaboration from industry because it gives them chance to align the research to real use cases, and there's a lot of value in it. The thing that you need to be aware of is, first of all, the problem that you solve need to be aligned with what this particular academic institution trying to solve. And there is a cultural issues. The speed normally as academia moves, it's slightly slower than the enterprise will move. So it's something that you need to be aware dealing with academia. And the fourth is obviously dealing with the big tech companies, which you just can buy solution off the shelf. Again, the price probably be higher than startups, but you will have less technological risk dealing with the big tech companies because you will have resources to scale, to integrate, to support you. Another option related to big tech company is something that's called co-creation. So companies like Hitachi, we have a huge R&D and research departments similar to academia, and what we want to do is just work with organization to apply technologies that we are researching for the industry, and that helps us to create a better create a solution that is relevant for the industry and for organization. It gives an opportunity to get valuable top-notch resources in a relatively cheaper price. And so now let's move to our next stage. Next stage is related to how we are going to develop model and how we're gonna scale our solutions. I'm gonna share that something that our data scientists are using, and some of our clients using as well. So we are using a platform that's called Pentaho, and there is a open source version, community edition, that available for download with standard open source licenses. And what does this platform allows? It allows you to do majority of the tasks required to develop a machine learning model on one platform and automate majority of those, which results in a time saving. So one of the most time-consuming tasks, they're related to data preparation and future engineering. So what Pentaho allows you, it has UI-based tools that comes with a lot of predefined connectors and predefined operations on data. So instead of decoding information, you can actually quickly connect to data sources using UI and perform operation on those, and that saves time from weeks to just hours. And the same comes for engineering features. It supports majority of languages that currently used, such as Veka, R, Python, and Spark. So just an example, you can see there is a simple transformation that they can input from MapReduce and extracting area codes from the data, and then doing lookup on Hadoop. If you would need to code it, it would require you to develop four different coded, and each step will require a separate code, which will require its own maintenance. In terms of Pentaho, it allows us to do it on UI base, and it's visible on the same platform. And basically, those tools comes code-free, so you actually can let usual IT people. You don't need to be data engineer and data scientist to use this tool. So it saves time and saves resources. If we're talking about more complex transformation, it also could be done. For example, in this use case, we are working on a e-commerce recommends fraud detection, and the solution takes data from multiple relational databases, blended with the transactional data from MongoDB and historical traits from CSV file, and then basically what it does, it extract additional variables and creates additional variables that we can use as for our machine learning analysis, like customer age, hour of the day when transaction was happening, and zip codes. And then we can use it in our future analysis. The next steps, it's ability of, as I mentioned, it's a no-code tool eventually, but if you want, you can integrate your code into Pentaho, or you can call those transformations from your code. So it has bidirectional language integration that makes things easier. Once you develop and test it and train your model, there is a important element that comes especially for supervised model. The models need to be constantly retrained and updated, and that happens because if we go again to the fraud detection example, what happens? It's considered as a good sign if your fraud detection model, supervised fraud detection models, results deteriorate, they become less accurate within time. What it means? It means your model is working, so you catching much more fraud that you didn't before, and you need to tweak the model to address more common cases, or also fraudsters try to apply different tactics to address your systems. And what we are doing in the same platform, you have tools and capabilities that allows you to perform machine learning model management, and it consists with 4 steps. It's constantly monitoring performances, and once performance of the model deteriorates, you can evaluate this performance on few competing models. So it's a champion-challenger model strategy. So if your champion model is deteriorate, and then you can compare with the challenger models, and then swap the models on the fly, and in this way you will always have up-to-date model to use. And because data integration, feature engineering, and trend building, deploying, everything exists on the same platform, you can do it, you can automate all this process. So that allows you scale fast. And it has schedules, or it could be done automatically. Just an example how it looks. So in this example, we have a simple transformation that extracts the data from multiple elements, and then brings this data into this evaluate change model. And eventually, if data is not good enough, we change those models. And in this example, it just shows 1 champion models and 4 challengers. And eventually, we can swap results with challengers. And you can what it helps actually. It helps to fail fast. So you can on the same data, you can simultaneously test multiple models that could run on multiple technologies, and pick the one that works better for you, and automate the whole process that will optimize machine model management. So just to summarize the last part, once you developing the and machine learning solution, AI solution, and you want to scale it, think about tools that help you to save time and scale solutions that reduce manual work that you need to do, reduce switching between multiple tools, and save the precious time that you get from data engineers and data scientists. I have tight time, and some topics, each of these topics that we discuss could be a webinar by itself. So I will go through the questions from the audience that I have now, but if you have some deeper discussion or technical questions, or any question that you want to ask me, you can stay in touch with me either by email or via my LinkedIn. And if you want to learn more about what Hitachi is doing in financial services, or how Hitachi works, how Hitachi can help, or different tools and blogs on artificial intelligence and other technologies, it's available in community.hitachivantara.com. So that's all from my presentation, and I will go now from the questions, answer the questions from the audience. Okay. So question number 1, can you talk about how AI is impacting digital banking and driving the omni-channel digital banking? Yeah, sure. So there is a multiple ways how AI can help in digital banking. So once we're thinking about digital banking, it's first everything related to our customers, right? In journeys that our customers going. So first of all, AI can help us to provide additional services, additional value-added services for our customers. A great example is robo advisory. Great example is, for example, providing a smart budgeting tools. Helping, so some of the challenging banks in the UK, they alert customers, they help them to get their planning better, they help them to save money using artificial intelligence, analyzing their finance. And the same relates to omnichannels. Omnichannels is basically when my customer journey spread about among multiple channels like digital, phone, branch, and so on. Idea here that AI can again analyze my customer journey, and as a customer, my life would be better if I will get better suggestions on suggestion, and using basically data not only to provide me with information, but provide me with recommendation. What can I do in order to improve my financial situation? That's really a very good use case for AI in digital banking. What are some of the biggest mistakes you've seen banks to do when dealing with AI? Well, I would say most of them related to the idea of business use case, and so there's a lot of use cases related to hype. Let's say currently the chatbots are in fashion, so lots of banks are implementing chatbots. But the question is, why do I really need chatbot? What I'm planning to achieve in the chatbot? How do I know what I'm going to achieve in the chatbot? So for some reason, they often think that chatbots can replace the whole customer service, and when it's not happening, well, they disappoint and say, well, AI doesn't work. Another issue that related, so first it's a hype, right? So we're doing because everyone is doing, fear of missing out. The second is often we have project driven purely by technology, or we say, well, we have great data lake, we have great data, let's try to come up with a great technology, and let's try to solve business problem using this amazing tech. And what happens is, once we have purely technologically driven solution, it doesn't really work without insights from the business. So you need to understand, in order to successfully implement AI, you need to actually have a good grasp on both technology and a business case, and all the different stakeholders in the bank need to work together on this use case. So if it's purely driven by technology, it's also often fails because of the lack of understanding what business is. So in my opinion, most of the mistakes are related to not understanding how the technology is developed, and also often trying too many things at the same time rather than focusing on something one. How has Hitachi helped FI to modernize the legacy systems? Well, there is a multiple way we are helping with the legacy system modernizations. It's for big banks, it's mostly around speeding up and fixing the data integration, data transformation problem. We work, for example, on a project where regulatory reporting took several days, and utilizing big data solution, we minimized it to minutes. Or, for example, when fraud detection being developed because of different legacy technologies, the fraud detection being delivered in batches of, let's say, 12 hours, and the actual financial crime unit wasn't happy because they have this window of 12 hours. So they will get only 12-hour trades 12 hours long in order to analyze if there is a fraud. So it's create additional risk. So we help to automate those kind of things and make the solution to work faster. So it's assisting with data integration, basically operationalizing big data, solving bottlenecks that related to speed or to data quality. Okay, next question. Do you consider using Apache Airflow instead of Pentaho? That's a good question, and I haven't used Apache Airflow, so I'm not sure how would they compare to Pentaho. happy to take this, do some research and take this question offline, and feel free to reach out. I'm happy to check and get back to you. Can you talk about how AI impact in digital banking? That's a question that I answer. Can you please elaborate a bit on champion and challenger models? Yeah, sure. So the idea is, as I mentioned, once we developed a model, the model needs to be constantly evaluated because the environment we are operating is changing, and the test data that we develop this model may not be accurate, may not really have a good representation of the environment we are working in. So the idea is we using our current model as a champion, and we can potentially use different models. We can use, for example, models that based on different algorithms. We can use model that will use different technology to run on. For example, we can use model that run on Veka, and then in parallel we can use similar models that will use, for example, R or Spark. And the idea is, what we want to do, we want to automate this process and react fast when the model is no longer accurate. So we want to be alerted when the model that is current champion is no longer performing for our satisfaction. And in this case, what PMI, it's Pentaho Machine Intelligence, can do, it's provide you framework that allows you to evaluate performance and then basically run, use the same data sets, use the same environment to test all the challenger models and then evaluate them all together. And once you see that the challenger model is performing better than the champion, we just unplug the data flow from the challenger model, from the champion model, and plug it into the challenger, and then challenger became the champion. And this challenger who became the champion now being evaluated in terms of performance. I hope it answer the question. Again, happy to share more offline. And there is really one of the links I touched. There is a really good blog that explains how to use challenger, and champion model, and how to swap between them, how to optimize the whole process. It's quite technical and very detailed. Any tips on how we explain the models to business who don't have machine learning background? Yes, that's a really good question, and I have been doing it quite a lot. And what I find, if you remember my slide on what AI can do, that's probably one of the best ways to start to explain. Just explain what AI can do really very well. That it can forecast, that it can learn from data, that it can make decision of data that human cannot make, because, well, there is a lot of computation that needs to be done, and machines are better at doing computation normally than human. So focus on really explaining capabilities of AI can do in very simple manner, like predicting future. It's pretty simple. Finding patterns in data, finding abnormalities in data, and that's something that is really really good to talk. And then once you provide example for every single capabilities of AI that you are talking about that is relevant for for a particular business. For example, for predicting future, it's if you're talking about customer centricity, right? It's forecasting, predicting next move of a customer, predicting when customer gonna what the chance when customer about to leave our company and switch to somewhere else, and acting just before, right? So basically helping to retain customers. So stuff like this is very useful. Okay, I have 2 more minutes, and then webinar is gonna be closed. So okay, I see the question. Can you please talk about feature engineering and clustering methods? Please go to one of the blogs that I mentioned. It has really good explanation how to do feature engineers. I just wouldn't be able to answer this question within 2 minutes, and if it's not enough, just reach out to me. I would happy to take it further. Do you see the potential in banking UI evolving completely into voice by being proactive with AI, similar to Google Assistant? Yeah, good question. I think voice is getting important. Google Assistant is really good technology, and especially when it can make a reservation for a restaurant or for a barber for me, that's pretty useful. I don't think in general voice will completely replace UI. I think UI interaction is still important, still will be there. It's I think of voice as a complementary tool. All right, I think there is no more question. So thank you very much for joining the webinar. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you very much.